Hey everyone, Selena here, Selena Baca Crochet. It's Monday and I love to mingle, and I love to mingle about some of the patterns that I think are new, hip, and happening, even if they're old and they got a refresh like the Bloom Market Tote. So if you are watching live, come on over, say hey, say hello, tell me where you're viewing from. If you're watching on the replay, it's still the same great jam, don't fret. So yeah, the Bloom Market Tote is an oldie but a goodie. So I wrote this pattern back in, what's the date? January 2016 was the first time I published this. So, you know, it's been around for a minute. Probably I say this about every pattern that I feature. Probably one of my favorite bag patterns. If we were looking at another bag pattern, I might say that. But I think it's also fair to say that I don't write patterns for things that I don't like. But I think that also this pattern is probably one of the most fun patterns to make. Again, first published this back in 2016. This has been in one of my books, Crochet in a Day. So if you have that book, here's a really nice picture from Hillary's hook right here of the bag next to the book. I did put this pattern in that book. So if you have that book, you have this pattern. Yeah, so recently I was just, or actually just in general, I always go through patterns that I've published a long time ago and I reformat them. So I like to make sure that things are printer friendly. So many people print patterns. It's not something that I do. I never print patterns, ever. Everything is digitally saved. Everything is saved in a library. But every time I ask the crochet community what they do with patterns, like 90% of you guys print. So let me know. Do you guys print your patterns? Anyway, let me know in the comments. I think it's interesting to see, especially since it's, you know, sometimes I'm so narrow-minded. Like this is what I do. So it's hard to envision like what other people do. But anyway, after making patterns for a really long time, and again, I save my patterns digitally. I used to make my patterns, I used to format them with like really big colorful pictures and lots of different fonts and different colored backgrounds. And when I heard and saw that like 95% of you guys want to print your patterns, I thought, well, this is probably not the best experience. Like this does not, like this is, you know, an ink sucker. So I changed to a format that it's easier to read. It's 2 columns. It's mainly just black and white. And I separate things. And that way, there's a cover page, a very clear cover page, gives you a picture of the pattern. I even include link resources now. So if there's a specialty stitch or even just the standard stitches, or a specialty technique, I will link out a video tutorial or a resource. And that way you can just kind of click whenever you're viewing the digital version, you can quickly find that resource. So you're not guessing if you need a resource. And then I like to put the pattern on a completely different section. So for example, the Bloom Market Tote, I think maybe it's a 3 or 4 page pattern. And so the cover page is 1 page. And if you just want to print the pattern, you can just print, you know, the other pages. So you're not printing anything that you don't need. So yeah, this pattern needed an update. It needed all of those updates. And while I was going through it, I just went through another round of pattern testing. So I had like, I think 15 different people look at this, and a lot of people were stuck at a certain point because the verbiage, I said something to mean something, and a lot of people were like, does that mean this or that? So I was like, okay, if more than one person are questioning this, it should be different. So I updated the verbiage in a few places. And so hopefully this is even easier to follow. So if you already have this pattern and you purchased it on Ravelry, you already got an update. You already got an email from me. So definitely check that out for that updated version. All right, before we dive into this pattern anymore, I wanted to give a shout out to everybody who's here, like Dawn. So good to see you. Hey, Kim, good to see you too. Monica, hello, long time catching alive. I know, I'm trying to get back into it. It's really hard. Once you get out of a schedule, it's so hard to like kind of get back in there. But I've really missed this, and there's so many things that I want to talk about, and there's so many things that I want to share. So here I am. I'm doing it. I'm making it happen. By the way, Monica is one of my favorite crocheters, favorite pattern testers of all time. Every time Monica wants to pattern test for me, I'm like, yes, please. And just the colors and the stitch work. I mean, oh gosh, Monica's just fantastic. So thank you, Monica. Oh, it looks like Aurora is here. Good to see you. Angelica, another one of my favorite crocheters. Angelica says, I don't print. Yeah, I think that we're in the minority, my friend. I think so many people, they print their patterns. I just posted another poll over at the American Crochet Association on the page today. So I'll be excited to see what those results are in like 24 hours. How many of you guys print? So if you guys want to take part in that poll, definitely check that out. Dawn says, yes, I print when I use them. Monica says, I try not to print. Kim does not print. Linda, I normally do not print until I'm going to make a pattern. That way I can take it with me on the go. Amy McKeever. Man, all my favorite crocheters are here today. Good to see you too, Amy McKeever. Thanks for checking in. Terry Sullivan, hello from New York. Good to see you here. Tina Smith. Oh my gosh, all my favorite crocheters are here. Hey, Tina, how you doing? Tina says, I'm making forward to looking this bag. Awesome. I'm going to be talking about the bag in greater detail in just a minute. So, and I can't wait to see a Tina Bloom Market tote. So you're going to have to keep us posted on that. Marcia is here. Again, another one of my favorite crocheters. Elaine is here, one of my favorite pattern testers, doing all the awesome work. So good to see you here. Sherry Richards, long time no see. So good to see you. Thanks for being here. Tina Smith always prints. Monica, aw, thanks. My husband is listening and says he's very proud too, as he should be. You're one of the best crocheters ever. You're one of my favorite crocheters to follow, and not just because you help so much in my community. Just your work is fantastic. The colors you choose are fantastic. The pictures you take. You're awesome. You're inspiring to follow. So I appreciate you. It's good to have you here. All right, Sherry always prints. Amy, I print the patterns that go on my bucket list. And so you need that physical reminder, huh? That's nice. You kind of tear them out as you go. Jessica Elliott, hey, I save digital copies to print when ready to make a project. Elaine says, I tend to print, especially when it's something complicated. It's easier for me to keep track and make notes. Marcia says, I like printed patterns. I do have some saved on my laptop. Yeah, nice. I feel like that's a conversation in itself. Yeah, it's fascinating. But anyway, I committed to it. So whenever I reformat a pattern, it's definitely printer friendly. That way, if you want to print it, you can. And if you don't, that's fine too. All right, so oldie but a goodie, the Bloom Market tote. I named this pattern for the yarn that I used. The yarn that I used was, I'm really sorry, I'm not going to say this right, Shepis. Yes? No? I'm sorry. Yarn name was Bloom. It's been discontinued. This yarn came out in March 2015, and it says here that it was last updated in December 2021. I'm assuming that's when it was discontinued. So I am real sorry to hear that, because this was a fantastic yarn. When I got it in hand, I was so inspired. Like, I used every single inch of this yarn. It was just beautiful. So this was probably one of the first yarns that I used that was a chainette construction. And let me see. Do you have any information here? Nope, not a whole lot of... Nope, not a whole lot of information there. I'd have to do a lot more digging. In essence, this is 100% cotton yarn. But all of those individual cotton threads, they're not just twisted together. So to get the gist of what I'm talking about, get any yarn and look at the end of your yarn, the plies of the yarn. So most of the time, yarn is just all the, however many different strands of yarn, and then it's just twisted together, and that's most yarn. So a yarn like Shepis Bloom is a chainette construction, where those individual fibers are not twisted together. They are like chainette knitted together. Like, it is a fabric and a fiber in itself. It is magnificent. So not only is it really beautiful, not only does it create fantastic stitch definition. I got a hair in my glasses, sorry. But it is super duper 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 durable. So what I mean by that is you are not going to be able to break this yarn with your hands. Like, this is not the yarn, but this is what I mean by you cannot break it with your hands. So whenever I choose a yarn to make something that I need to be durable, like a bag, I mean, I'm no He-Man, but I'm not very strong, but even so, like, is this yarn going to be strong enough for whatever I want to do with it? Is this yarn going to be strong enough to put stuff in? And a chainette construction, it really, like, it just is like bagged and tagged and ready to go. It's so good. It's such a good yarn. So this is discontinued. If you can get your hands on this yarn, snag it and try it. I mean, oh, it's just fantastic. Feels good, it looks good, and it is durable. So again, so sad that it's discontinued, but I have some solutions for you. So let's start there. First and foremost, again, if you are crocheting a bag, as long as it passes the strength test, can you break the yarn in your hands? If you can't, then it's probably going to be durable enough to make a bag with. Some cottons are going to really be very delicate. Not only with this kind of stress test, but also maybe if you're worried about how strong they're going to be, get your yarn fiber, get it a little wet and see how it reacts. Does it become stronger when it's wet? Because some fibers do, or does it become more dense and brittle and kind of disintegrate a little bit? So definitely wet it a little bit and see what it does, and, see if it's just going to kind of, how's it going to react? It's going to get a little stronger. That's good over time, because if I'm using this bag and, I put some wet produce in there or something like that, is it just going to kind of fall apart over time? I don't want to make a bag that I use 5 times and then it's done. I want to make a bag that's going to last a while, especially when I put stuff in it that, might be a little damp or something like that. Okay, so that's my number one. Is the yarn strong? Pertaining to fiber, it could be lots of different fibers. I like to stick with cottons. I just think that cotton makes a really good fabric. It's really accessible. It's pretty, it's economically priced, and there's so many different cotton options that, yeah, I'm going to choose a cotton over something else. Do you want to use an acrylic or a wool or a blend or a linen or something else? I mean, if it passes the stress test, yeah, go for it. Also, if it's something that you like the look of and it passes the stress test, go for it. Don't worry about it. So this is my number one. I wrote the pattern for this yarn. Fantastic yarn. If you can't get it or if you want something else, I've got some runner-ups. So runner-up number one is Lion Brand Cotton 24/7. This had better not ever go out. Don't discontinue this Lion Brand. I love it with all my heart, and if you take it away from me, I'm going to be real sad. So this is another great example of a yarn. It's 100% cotton, so there you go. But it's also that chainette construction. So again, those fibers, they're not woven together like this. You can't pull them apart like this. They're not twisted. They are like chained together. They are a fabric. You are not breaking this. Here, I've got some on my desk right here. You are not breaking this stuff with your bare hands. It's not happening. This stuff is super strong. If you do break it with your bare hands, you're packing some heat. You are. Because that's some strong yarn right there. Or I'm weak. I don't know. Maybe both. So I love this yarn because I love the price of this yarn. You get a lot of it, and I think it's pretty readily available. I'm out here in the West Coast in America, and it's available in most places where I can buy yarn, and big box stores has it, and I can also find it online fairly easily. So that's why I'm recommending it. Okay. And another yarn that I just used for the first time, but I've known about it for a while. But again, this was my very first time using it, and I highly recommend. I've got 2 samples here to show you. Lion Brand Lazy Days. Don't discontinue it. Okay, it's been here for a minute. I think it's been here since last year. Yeah, it just came out last year. So Lion Brand Lazy Days, 100% manufactured fibers, polyester. So it's an acrylic yarn. It's not a natural fiber, which is totally fine. Again, does not have to be a natural fiber. Your bags do not have to be 100% cotton. This is that chainette construction I was telling you about. So again, it's all of those little yarn pieces, all of those threads, they are woven together, and it just creates this really, really beautiful fabric of yarn. So if you get a chance to see chainette construction in person and check it out. It's really cool. So again, beautiful, excellent stitch definition, really durable yarn. This is going to be very economically priced, and I did order this online, but I have seen it in my local Joann's. So if you have that store, you can check it out, or you can find it online. All right, so those are in general, that's how you determine what yarn to use. These are the yarns that I use and the yarns that I recommend. And I have tons of examples because you guys love making this bag and you've posted the project. So we'll look at that again in just a minute. But let's see, anybody else here? Any other shout outs? Dawn, I love it. Dawn says, I call this yarn sheep G's. Sheebies. I think you're right. I think it is a little closer to that. I've heard the pronunciation, but I think it's a Dutch company. I could be wrong. I'm grasping at straws here. But I've heard it pronounced in Dutch, and it's a little difficult for me. So I think that's a little closer to what it is, but it's a really beautiful sounding yarn line. So I don't want to butcher it, but yeah, fantastic yarn company. Angelica says 24/7 is by far my favorite yarn for bags. It's definitely one of my favorites too. I probably have like, I don't know, maybe 10 favorite yarns that I'll make bags with. But 24/7, that's definitely at the top of the list. Hey, Roxanne, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Okay, so I do have a few samples that I want to show you, and here's a cool feature that I wanted to share with you guys too. So the link, I have shared a link to this pattern in the video description. So after this live, definitely click on that because it's going to take you over to the Ravelry listing. So you're going to see this right here. This is the Ravelry listing page. It's going to give you all the details about the pattern and more. So you can see right here that there are 76 projects that have been posted to Ravelry so far. Thank you guys. I love that so much. So we're going to kind of glance for just a second. All right. And the thing that I wanted to show you, I don't know if you guys knew this, because sometimes, you know, we come to Ravelry, I'm saying the collective we, because this used to be me and I'm even getting better. You come to Ravelry and it feels like there is so much here that it's overwhelming. I don't use probably 50% of the things that I could do on Ravelry. So I'm just going to show you this quick little tip here. Okay. So again, details, this is the pattern page. If you are curious about other yarns that people have used and, you know, how other colors and things like that, let's take it a step back for just a minute. So what I've done is I've clicked on the project page, which is right here, 76 projects. You see that in the About This Pattern block right here. So I clicked on that, but my real live internet would take forever. So here, we're transported. And what we're going to do is there's some different tabs up here. Details, which that's just the pattern page. So that's going to take you right back to that. What we're looking at is projects, any comments people have made publicly about this. And then here's yarn ideas. So when I click on yarn ideas, of course it brought up a new tab. This is going to take a minute. So everybody who posted a project to Ravelry who also said exactly what yarn they used, that's all pulled from right here. So now you can at a glance see all the different yarns people have used. You don't have to kind of pore over each individual project. You can if you're like, oh my gosh, I love this rainbow yarn. I want to use that. What is it? You can click on that project and see if they posted it. Or, oh my gosh, what is this variegated yarn? So cute. I want to crochet that one right there. So you can very easily kind of click on individual ones that you love to see what yarn they used if you want to replicate that. Or again, if you just want to see what yarns people have used, like here they are. Sugar and Cream was used 11 times. Lily Sugar and Cream, 7 times. Hobby Lobby, I Love This Cotton, 5 times. So I think what this is doing is it's listing all of the yarns in order of how many times that yarn was listed in a project. Because what we're seeing right here is Lily Sugar and Cream, Solids and Denim. It was listed 11 times, and here we see 7 and so on and so forth. So very popular choice right here. So, but again, there are some cottons right here, Handy Crafter, but then there's some acrylics in here too, like Red Heart Super Saver, Red Heart Super Saver stripes, things like that. So yeah, hopefully there's some good information there for you guys to find one that you super love. Okay. Or it'll also help you just, maybe choose a yarn that you want to use or see how it'll work out. Okay, so I think we're ready to check out the bag. Tanya says, I have used Lion Brand 24/7 cotton yarn and really like it for market bags. Yeah, it is fantastic. I highly recommend it. Tanya says, I will look for Lazy Days at the local Joann's. Is it Joann? Yes. I get my Michaels and Joann's confused for some reason. I know they're different. I know that they're different stores, but sometimes I can't remember which store I saw a yarn in. But yes, it was my Joann's where I saw Lazy Days. Again, highly recommend it. Love it. Carissa, what are your thoughts on Lily Sugar and Cream yarn? I think it's fantastic. I use it for lots of different things. I think it's a great economically priced cotton yarn for lots of different things. It comes in a really small skein. So for market bags, you're probably going to need more than one. So I think the last time I price checked those locally, those used to be the cheap yarns. They used to be like $1.99. How old am I? Oh my gosh. 99 cents, $1.99. That's how old I am. And now they're like almost $4, sometimes over $4. So if you're thinking about price, definitely factor that in because again, it's whatever bag you make is probably going to take more than one of those. So kind of factor that in as well to see if, that's still going to be an option for whatever you're making. I think that's but yeah, Lily Sugar and Cream, I think they come in fantastic colors. I love all the colors they come in, super durable yarn. I like it for craft projects and washcloths, dishcloths, things like that. I don't think I would make anything to wear with it. I might have in the past, but it's not my first option, with all the projects that I've made since, just because I think that it can be a little scratchy and there's no bounce to it whatsoever. So when it stretches, that's it. So that's just something to think about. Angelica, I love when people add information on a project, yarn choice, hook, and anything else that would help. I absolutely agree. I'm even guilty of not, I should put in more information. I use this hook. I use this yarn. It took me this long. I use these exact colors. I can be a little guilty of that too. I don't always do that. I think I'm going to remember. But then also sometimes I see a fantastic project and I'm like, what did they use? And they put nothing in there. And I'm like, it's so gorgeous. I wonder what they did. So yeah, it can be a little frustrating, but when we know better, we do better, right? So maybe we'll all do better together. Maybe, yes. Anyway, these are some cool features in Ravelry. So as you're checking out the Bloom Market Tote, you can kind of click around at these different tabs to see different aspects of the pattern. And hopefully if you learn something here, then you learn how to better use Ravelry for another project in the future. Okay, so here we go. I do have some samples. Here is I have not sewn in any ends, still hanging on, all of that. I followed the pattern to a T and made a Bloom Market Tote again. I just had it tested again. And if I have time, depending on the project, I like to kind of go through a pattern again as it's being tested. So here it is. It looks a little small at first glance. Even whenever you make it, you might make it and go, is this skimpy? Is this a skimpy bag? But what I like about this bag is that it is made of, it's got a little bit of like a, granny stitch in it right here. And then the rest of it is this mesh, and that mesh is super duper stretchy. So it will stretch out in all directions. So you can really put a lot in here without this feeling like a giant bag. Sometimes bags can feel really big, or sometimes bags are just big and you're not ever going to fill them, and then they just feel really big. I like bags that this is kind of, for me, maybe a more medium-sized bag. It's not too small, and I think that it can grow with what I need. So anyway, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so here we go. I made first bag. I followed the pattern exactly. This is to the stitch, the exact pattern without a color change. I didn't want to change color here because I wanted to use Lazy Day because I thought it was great. I really wanted to try out that yarn, and I only had one color. So if I had more than one color, I probably would have changed color at the handle. But, again, works just fine to have one color. So if you are going to use Lazy Day, I did post my project On Ravelry, you can see it right here. I used 1.5 skeins. I think I added in all that information, and that way, if you guys wanted to try it too, you have that. So here you go. And so because one bag used 1.5 skeins, I was actually probably under. It's probably like 1.25, not even 1.5. So after I made that, I was like, man, I'm going to make another one. Like it is such a fun bag to make that once you read the instructions and you start working it up, you're like, oh, I got this. I didn't, after round 3, I didn't even need to read the instructions again. And I've made this bag like 27 times. So that was it for me. Okay. So the second bag that I made, I just wanted to use up the entirety of the yarn that I had left. So, I mean, I used it to like the inch. I won yarn chicken, totally won. And I actually added a few rows to the bag base, which is very easy to do. The pattern is very adaptable. You don't have to do any crazy math. You don't have to do any kind of crazy increasing or decreasing. You don't need a calculator. Once the pattern emerges, it's very easy to keep going if you want to. And then the handles are very easy to add after that. The pattern is written to where you can add the handles if you don't want to. You can decrease the rows if you want, not add as many. You can add more rows, and you can totally pick it back up. And of course, the stitch count is not going to match, but you can still make the same great bag. So because I wanted to use as much yarn as possible, I added a few rows to the bag base, and it wasn't much bigger. But this is, guys, this is 6 skeins of yarn in here. And there's still room. So this is like, I think 3 extra rows. And then I did add 5 extra stitches to each handle, just because, again, I had the yarn. So I decided to do that. So this is 3 skeins of Pima cotton, and then 3 skeins of Lion Brand Heartland. So kind of a hefty amount of yarn. So I'm going to put the big one in first, and then the little one in, just so you guys can kind of see. Check that out. And then here you go. I mean, so that's what I mean by the bag looks a little small, but because it's that mesh fabric, it's going to hold a lot more than it looks like it's capable of. And it really does this great job of kind of, blooming out when it needs to. Bloom, haha, like the pattern, like the yarn. It blooms out when it needs to, and then it kind of shrinks back because it's that really nice mesh material. So it does a really good job of, it's got some elasticity in it. So I super, super duper love that. But yeah, that's what I wanted to show you guys. This is what the bag is capable of. Lots of yarn. You can do all the yarn shopping in here. But all right, I want to tell you guys a little bit more about the bag and what you can and probably shouldn't do with it. But let's see what else is here. Carissa, what are your thoughts on Lily's Sugar and Cream? I think I just answered that. Yeah, I did. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked. Angelica, I love when people add information. Okay, yep, I did that one too. Elaine, I usually use Karen cotton cakes for my market bags. Ooh, that's a good one. I have used that yarn for market bags. And that reminds me of a tip that I wanted to give you guys too, pertaining to not only the yarn that you choose, but the fabric that you want to make. So whatever yarn you choose, again, make sure that's going to be durable, make sure it's not going to be breaking under stress and stuff. But also whenever we're creating bags, even if it's a mesh bag like this, you want to take all the slack out of the stitches and the fabric because you're going to be using it as a bag. So whenever you start putting stuff in it, those stitches and that fabric is going to expand as much as it can. So you want to take all of the tension out, all of the extra yardage, all of the extra inches out of not only every single stitch, but the fabric as a whole. So whenever I crochet bags, I think, okay, this is going to stretch. I don't want it to have a lot of stretch. So I'm going to take out all of that slack as much as possible. So I will go down a few hook sizes. So if you are using something like Karen cotton cakes, I'm making things up here. Don't quote me on this. I think that yarn calls for an eye hook. I'm not sure. So if I was making a beautiful summer top or something like that, yeah, you might use an eye hook for that because you want it to be this beautiful, flowy, cascadey fabric. And that works perfect for something like a wrap or a shawl or a top or something like that. But for a tote bag, I'm probably going to use a G hook. So I'm going to go all the way down to a G. And I might be fighting with that yarn just a little bit. So it might, actually sometimes when I do that, it's a little hard on my hands. It's a little tense. So I do have to kind of be mindful of that and take a few more breaks and just be mindful that I'm creating a dense fabric. But whenever I do that, whenever I go down a few hook sizes, and it may seem unnatural to you, you might be creating a fabric and you're going, oh man, this is dense. But the minute you put a handle on that and you start putting things in it, that's going to be the real test. So many times we, myself included, we create tote bags and we make them and we're like, oh, it's so beautiful. Look at this beautiful bag I created. It's so perfect. And then you put something in there that doesn't even weigh a lot, or you go to use it for the first time. And it starts at your shoulder and it just keeps growing inch by inch by inch by inch to where you wear it one time on one event and all of a sudden this bag that you made is now 6 inches longer than it should have been. And it's not all yarns are going to have bounce back. A lot of yarns don't, especially cotton yarns. Cotton does not recoil. So it will stretch and then it's like, yep, I'm done. I'm not going back. So that's kind of one of those things that you have to pay attention to in terms of the fabric that you're making. So when you take out all of the slack, it's not going to, it will give a little bit, but you're going to have more longevity. You might be creating a fabric and you're going, man, this is super dense and maybe it's curling in some places and maybe it doesn't look absolutely picture perfect. But again, you want something that's going to be durable. You want something that's going to last. You want to create fabric that has some density, and that way it's going to be able to hold the things you want it to hold and last for more than one use. So there you go. Terry says, I love Karen cotton cakes for market bags too. So sturdy. It can be. But again, it's a cotton yarn, so it's not going to have that elasticity to it, especially if it gets wet. So if there's any kind of dampness in it, it's going to stretch and that's going to be it. So definitely go down in hook size. If you want it to last a really long time. Cat Lady says, I've never used Ravelry. Is that the best way to reach you? Ooh, oh my gosh. Well, first and foremost, it's so hard for me to believe that anyone in the yarn world is not using Ravelry. Ravelry's not paying me a dime to do anything or be anywhere. I wish they would though. Ravelry, if you want to, I will I will gladly take that job. No, so Ravelry has been a resource since I think maybe like 2006, 2009, somewhere around there. I think I stumbled across Ravelry in 2009 to 2011, 2009 to 2011, somewhere around there. And I love Ravelry as a person who loves yarn and a person who loves crochet because it's you create an account is free. And then your account is attached to whatever you want to do. If you want to search for patterns, there's millions of patterns on here. This is where people post patterns. Doesn't matter if it's a pattern in a book, on a blog, on a website, at a yarn company. It doesn't matter where people publish patterns. This is such a fantastic resource that people will list their patterns here, even if it's available somewhere else. So it's a great place to find any pattern. It's a great place to research yarns. I was showing you guys different yarns like Shepa's right here. So like if you wanted to find a yarn, you can come here and just search yarn and it'll give you all the information. Where do you buy this yarn? When was it made? What are the details? Like what is the yarn manufacturer? 87 yards, 50 grams. Use a US number 8 5mm H hook. It's a 100% cotton plied texture yarn. So whatever you want to know about a yarn, it's available there. It's also a fantastic resource for patterns that you buy. Your library is there. So if you buy a crochet pattern, like let's say you buy the Bloom Market Tote, it's in your library. So you don't have to download it to your desktop. You don't have to save it on any device. You don't have to print it. It is there for you anytime you log in. Anytime. So that's fantastic. Let's say your laptop breaks or your computer breaks or whatever. It's there on the internet in a safe place for you whenever you need it. Also, if there's an update to a pattern like this, I said in the beginning that I just updated the format and things like that. I can very seamlessly reach buyers and give them an update on Ravelry. I can't do that anywhere else. There's nowhere else that allows me to do that. So if you buy a pattern anywhere else, let's say Etsy or somebody's website, or you download it somewhere, if there's ever an update or if you ever need help, it's going to be far, more difficult for you to not only reach the person, but see what that update is. So that's kind of an interesting thing. So what I love about Ravelry is whenever you get patterns here, you can message me. Yeah, I'm right here. You can click on my name, you can send me a message, you can write a comment on the pattern, you can get my email address. So people are far more accessible here. So Cat Lady Wren, if you are not on Ravelry, it is quick and easy and free to join. Just Ravelry.com, and I actually teach a whole course on how to use Ravelry and what you can do there. So I have resources if you need. I think it's a fantastic resource, and I can't recommend it enough. So enjoy. Dawn says, I like to add my favorites too on Ravelry. Oh my God. You know what? Ravelry is a whole other conversation, and I could talk about it all day. So maybe we need a Ravelry update. I'd be happy to do that. We'll do that next time. We'll do that on our next Mingle Monday. All right, guys. I think that about covers it. That about covers everything I wanted to tell you guys about this pattern, about the yarn that I used, how you can choose yarn to not only make this crochet bag, but any crochet bag, just different tips and tricks when choosing yarn and making the best fabric for a bag. Let's see what else. What it looks like. I mean, I was pretty, when I started shoving this thing full of stuff, I was like, man, that is so exciting. Look at that. That's a perfect like beach bag, pool bag, project bag, day bag. I mean, that thing's going to hold some stuff. I super dig it. Marsha, I just bought a pattern and the only option was Etsy. I prefer Ravelry. Oh man, I'm really sorry to hear that. That's interesting. I wonder about that too sometimes. I guess it's also my perception. I don't know if this is negative or closed-minded or whatnot, but I just feel that Ravelry is a far superior place for selling patterns. I think that Etsy, it just is not going to give you the best user experience. It's far more difficult there. There's far too many things that you can buy on Etsy. Patterns just being one of them, that I think it's kind of a disservice to only have a shop there. Yeah, so I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that, but yeah, that's a thing, I guess. Yes, go on Ravelry, check it out. It's a gem. It can probably feel a little overwhelming because again, there's lots of options. So, and everyone learns and thinks and does things differently. So I will say that there are lots of menus because there's lots of different things you can do on Ravelry. So just pay attention to the menus, particularly pertaining to the device that you're on. You can access Ravelry on any device, but like, for example, right now we're looking from my giant desktop screen. So what you're seeing a lot of information. If we were viewing this from, let's say if you were on a smartphone or something, it's going to look far different. This isn't formatted. It's not auto formatting. But anyway, it's going to look far different and you may feel a little overwhelmed. So just kind of keep that in mind too. If you're looking from a smartphone, you may feel like, where are things? And if you're looking from a desktop, you may go, there's too many things. So just, again, pay attention to the menu options. And from there, they can be kind of intuitive. So don't get overwhelmed. Just have fun, click around. And if you have any questions, let me know. Oh, la, la, la. Marsha, if the pattern is on both places, I will choose Ravelry every time. I absolutely agree. Sherry Richards, love, love, love Ravelry. Me too. Absolutely. Angelica, 2 on Ravelry. I love to see what I've done on you or used for a pattern. Ravelry is awesome. Yeah, just the notes that you can take. You know, for example, I just finished, this is my pattern, but I made it again. So I posted a finished project. So again, it is a really helpful resource to keep track of your crochet resume. Have I made this bag pattern before? Oh, here it is. What yarn did I use? What are my notes on that? So it's a really good way for you to keep track of exactly what you've made in the crochet world, and you can make any notes that you want to about it. It directly links not only to the pattern, but the person who wrote it. So if you want to reach out or ask questions, how many, have other people made this? What yarn have they used? Did I make any notes on this? I didn't, because this is the one that I followed to the book, but the other one, but now I have another project. I've made 2 bags, so that's 2 projects. So, I'll have to update that listing. But yeah, this is such a fantastic resource. Let's see. Cat Lady. I've gotten free patterns on YouTube to try since I'm experimenting, and I've received terrible patterns and couldn't finish a project. Yeah, I think that, I'll say that I love that in the crochet world, like it's, I've got to love hate with how willy-nilly it is. I love that we have the internet and anyone can publish anywhere that they want. Anyone can write anything that they want and put it wherever they want. Because what we're seeing in terms of creativity and new things being learned and shared, I think that's amazing in terms of what we're seeing that's new and different and inventive in the crochet world. And it depends on what kind of learner you are. I mean, I sometimes I need more than one thing, but for the most part, I'm very analytical. So I need black and white numbers. So when I'm following a crochet pattern, I just want numbers. Don't give me 1,000 words. Just give me 2 numbers. What do I need to do and how many do I have? That's it. You don't need to tell me anything else. So because everyone learns differently, I completely understand how some people need written instructions. Some people need charts and diagrams. Some people need a video tutorial. So it's all in how you learn. But I will say the more, and for a very long time, the way I was taught, I was not taught to read written patterns. I was taught verbally, and so it's just do this. And so I, didn't have anything other than just do what I'm doing. And I was like, okay, I'll do what you're doing. And then I learned how to read charts, and then I learned how to read instructions. And I will say, when I learned how to read written instructions, it just, it opened so many doors for me, and I no longer had limitations. So I think that if you only stick to one thing, if you only stick to written instructions, if you only stick to charts, if you only stick to video, if you're only stuck in one of those realms, then you may not be learning all that you can. And it might be a frustrating experience. So I'll say that the more that I learned, the less frustrating things were for me. So maybe that'll help. Don says, fun to play around Ravelry. It can be, and again, so if you're new to Ravelry or if you're not that experienced with it, just know there are lots of menus. Don't get overwhelmed. Just know that each one of those menus does something completely different. And then there's menus within menus. So don't feel overwhelmed. There's tons of cool things you can do. And it can be a fun place to get lost in for a little bit. All right, everybody. So the Bloom Market Tote, it's an oldie but a goodie. This might be the bag that I've made more than any other bags, and it's probably not just because it's one of my oldest bag patterns. I love the design. I love the construction. I love how it holds up, and it's just really fun to make. So if you guys want to check it out, again, link is in the video description. And I always have a coupon for you guys to use. It's GET2OFF. So whenever you use that coupon here, I'll type it in for you. You get $2 off any pattern in my shop anytime. That's kind of one of those forever coupon codes. So here, GET2OFF. There we go. Oh my God. Oh my gosh, it's so big. Apply it. And again, it's $2 off any pattern, anytime. You can use it as many times as you want. You can use it on any pattern you want. So enjoy. And again, if there's ever an update, which I just updated this one, it's solid. But if there's ever an update or a reformat or anything like that, whenever you get it on Ravelry, you will immediately get that update. Angelica, I didn't know how to read a pattern at all until I joined your group and the ACA. Did I know that about you? Maybe I didn't know that about you. You're just such an old pro now. Like, just the things that you make and the things that you post, like, you're just like this old pro, this old professional. So shameless shout out to the classes at the American Crochet Association. There really are a lot of resources, and I'm so glad that you enjoyed. And you're giving us a shout out. So I'm glad that it helped you. I'm glad you're sharing that. You got me all tongue-tied now. Thank you, Angelica. I appreciate it. Brenda, you can spend hours exploring Ravelry. Yeah, absolutely. Terry Sullivan, I'm going to go buy it now. Thank you for all you do for us. My pleasure. Enjoy and definitely use that coupon. All right, guys, if you dug this, if you thought you learned something, if there was something new and different and interesting that will help you in your crochet life, hopefully. I mean, I love to talk about yarn and how to choose yarn better and how to make the best fabrics and, how to just kind of make your crochet life better. If you learned anything, let me know what it was in the comments. Maybe tag a crochet friend if you think they'll get something out of this too. And if you thought this was totally awesome and you want to share it, hit that share button and share this in at least one place that you enjoy crochet if you think they'll dig it too. I'd really appreciate it. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it. Peace, love, crochet. See you next time. Bye-bye.